How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your August 2019 horoscope for Gemini, Sun, and Rising. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. We are ending July and starting August off with the new moon in Leo and Mercury finally stationing direct. Now, this new moon in Leo is a little bit important because after we get off all this gnarly stuff that's going on in July, we'll have the Sun, Mars, and Venus all in Leo, and with the moon coming in there, with this being a new moon, it's not an eclipse, it's finally some chilled energy. This is going to be a good time to reset your batteries and to really rethink things, especially because while this is in Leo, this is talking about our ego, this is talking about our pride, talking about our identity. This is in your third house, and the third house is all about communication. It's very similar to Mercury, where it does rule communication, our writing style, but the third house also represents siblings and relatives of, like, your neighbors and things like that. It rules short distance travel as well, and like teaching. And so while we do have this new moon in Leo, I think this is a good time to really calibrate yourself to communicate and express yourself in a more of that authentic way that you can start identifying yourself with. But also, we have Mercury finally stationing direct. Now, Mercury did go retrograde in Leo in your third house, where you might have had miscommunication slip-ups and problems like that. But now that Mercury is in Cancer, where the planet of communication, of our mindset, of our ideas, and how we think, is in the sign of Cancer, which is about empathy, which is about trust, which is about relating, which is about necessity, is finally going direct. It can start taking on the challenges it was presented. But Mercury's going direct in your second house, and so this has a big thing to do with getting your money together and getting your finances kind of situated, because that could have definitely been a problem that you've had during this Mercury retrograde. Then as we jump ahead about 10 days later on August 11th, that is when we have Mercury go back into Leo, and now that Mercury's out of your second house, so you don't have to worry about that stuff too much. But as Mercury goes back into your third house of communication, and Mercury can be a lot more expressive there, and it's in the sign of Leo, this is where you want to be careful about, hey, what are you saying, when are you saying it, and why are you saying it? Where is it coming from? An analogy I've been using is, like you can roar like a lion, but you don't have to roar as loud as you can to get your point across. And so while Mercury's in Leo, focus on communicating from the heart, focus on communicating from integrity and from, how you truly feel about something, but know when it is the appropriate time to say something, especially while Mercury is still in shadow. Also on August 11th, that is when we have Jupiter finally stationing direct in Gemini. This is very good for you guys because that relationship stuff can finally start getting a little bit better. Jupiter's been in your 7th house of relationships, and it's also been in the sign of Sagittarius for the majority of this year, or all of this year. And as Jupiter first went to Sagittarius and moved forward, it was creating all of this room, giving you this energy and this vibe of things, expanding in that area of relationships for you guys. But as Jupiter went retrograde, this is, being more philosophical, asking the right questions around relationships. Who are you getting yourself involved with? What do you really want out of this stuff? And as Jupiter finally goes direct, this is when Jupiter can start bringing more opportunities, more abundance, more good luck within the context of relationships for you guys. So that is extremely positive. But then on August 14th, that is when we have Venus conjoining the Sun. And this is also really important because right now Venus is on the other side of the Sun. She's as far away as she's going to get. Venus, the planet of love and value, relationships, wanting you to connect to the greater things, indulge in the finer things. In the sign of Leo, Venus is looking for validation. She's looking for the attention. She's looking to be put in the spotlight and to, kill it. Like, she wants, like, the glory of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, as Venus conjoins the Sun, this is when she's kind of getting purified by fire. This is when Venus's energy is getting refreshed and renewed. And while this is happening in your third house, again, of expression, communication, the third house is also how you do things, because, the first house is who you are, second house is what you got, third house is how you use it. With Venus conjoining the Sun right here, I think this is important to really realize, where are you utilizing your valuable expression and the way that you identify yourself? And are you finding value in that? And are you expressing that? Are you thinking that? Are you writing that down? With Venus conjoining the Sun, this is a big time to really look at how can you utilize more of your self-worth. Then on August 15th, that's when we have the full moon in Aquarius, and this is lighting up your 3rd and your 9th house. While we have the Sun and Mars and Venus still all in Leo, focusing on your communication, focusing on what you know, focusing on what you can do, this full moon is lighting up your ninth house of what you believe, of, spirituality, religion, far distance travel, foreign languages, higher education. And this full moon, this is lighting up an axis, so this is seeing what we don't always get to see. This is the sign of Aquarius, so it's Saturn ruled, so there's a lot of strict rules and regulations, but it's in an air sign where things can be easily understood and more logically applied. So with this full moon happening in your ninth house, I think this is a big time to ask yourself bigger questions of what do you believe and where do your beliefs connect more to what you're doing, and how can you integrate both of those together. Also on August 15th, that's when Mercury finally leaves shadow and it's all done with its Mercury retrograde bullshit, and it can finally tread new ground in Leo. And while it is treading new ground, Mercury in Leo is kind of like, you're not afraid to say things in a bold manner. You're not afraid to, speak out the way you need to. But while Mercury's in Leo, make sure it's coming out of integrity. Make sure it's coming out of authenticity and from your heart. Don't say something if you don't mean it. But while Mercury's in Leo, this is a good time to express that authenticity, express that value, and don't shy away from saying the things that you do want to say. But then on August 18th, that's when we have Mars enter Virgo, and by the end of the month, we're going to have basically everything in the sign of Virgo, so this is important. Mars, the planet of our action and our drive, our intentions, what we're doing and how we're doing it, is going into the mutable sign of Virgo, which Virgo, ruled by Mercury, is all about analytics, detail, planning, organizing, being efficient and effective. And while Mars is going into Virgo, you could find yourself having more of that energy of being able to put yourself in specific situations, focus on the more menial tasks and the small list of things that accumulate into a big picture. But Mars is also a malefic planet. It severs, it cuts, it inflammates, and it heats up. So Mars can get frustrated with these tiny things that it has to do, and even though it can only be focused on those things. Now, Mars going into Virgo is going into your fourth house, and this is all about your family, your home life, where you live, how you live, where you center yourself, and like your parents. And so while Mars goes into Virgo, you may find yourself getting annoyed and frustrated at smaller little tiny things on your living situation or with your family and with your parents, or maybe just struggling to really getting into a place to center yourself. But then on August 21st, that is when Venus enters Virgo and changes the flavor a little bit. Venus, the planet of love and value, relationships again, is going into Virgo, which is her sign of fall, meaning Venus wants to have fun, and Venus doesn't really have fun in Virgo. Venus kind of gets caught up in the details and kind of gets caught up in all of the smaller things that it needs to accomplish to where it's not even having an enjoyable time. And so while Venus goes into Virgo, this is again bringing value to the specifics. However, the challenge with this is like creating that on your own. Like Venus in Virgo just wants things to be nice. She doesn't want to have to do tasks that, make things actually nice. She just wants it to be done. So while Venus goes into Virgo, focus on the smaller things that will make you happy and bring you that peace. And while she does go into Virgo, into your fourth house, this is looking like, bringing more value and focusing on, what things that need to be healed within your family, within where you live and how you live and where you center yourself. But then on August 23rd, that is when the Sun enters Virgo and the light is going away from communication and focusing on where you live, how you live, your parents, your living situation, and all of that fourth house fun stuff. Then on August 24th, that is when Venus conjoins Mars. And I bring this up because as Mars is in Virgo, kind of getting us a little bit frustrated and angry and really hyper focused on the details and the specifics and what's going on with your living situation, Venus in Virgo is kind of like trying to help Mars lighten up the mood a little bit. Venus in Virgo also has a lot of tiny details and tasks to accomplish, but Mars is kind of doing that for her. So Venus actually gets to know, like, hey, if we're going to focus on these tiny things that need to get done, let's at least enjoy the process and let's bring value in, let's not just do these tiny little things, half-assed. Let's put full value and attention and beautify these things so that they can turn out better in the long run. And then on August 29th, that's when Mercury enters Virgo, and Mercury's entering its home sign where, it's a little bit more in control, it has a little bit more, it works a little bit better, basically. And Mercury, the planet of communication, our thoughts, our mindset, how we think, how we speak, going into its home sign makes thinking and speaking and communicating and organizing a lot easier, a lot less frustrating. It's a little bit easier to pinpoint and focus on things. But while Mercury is going through Virgo and going through your fourth house, it's important to note that those, the energy that's kind of getting focused in on that area for you is going to start to become a lot more organized, start to become a lot more efficient as you put more thought and more process into it. But then on August 30th, we end the month with the new moon in Virgo. So like I said, we now have the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all in the same sign, all in your fourth house, and there's a lot of attention being called to where you live, how you live, where you're centering yourself, your family, your parents, and all of that stuff. And this new moon is giving you guys an opportunity to really, get things clear and efficient where it could be hectic, at least writing everything down on a list and organizing it the best way that you can so we can start September off on a positive note. But this new moon in Virgo is really, progressive and constructive because it's trining Saturn, it's trining Uranus. There is good energy here as long as you are able to stick to the tasks that are being presented to you. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'll be seeing you next month.